Hello, hello, my lovelies. It's been a couple weeks since I last posted an episode, and part of that is that I have been working on an episode around affairs. And as much as I wanted that episode to just spring forth out of me, like a lot of my episodes do, I'm finding it's very deep, and I have a lot of things that I'm wanting to say. It's probably going to end up realistically being two different episodes. And with this one, I actually just felt like I really wanted to take my time and drop in on it. So I took these last 2 weeks to be doing that, to be leaning into some of my own work. As you all know, I love to ebb and flow with my cycles. Last week was definitely, I was on my bleed and I was just feeling this beautiful exhaustion and wanting to hermit and kind of be held and cuddled in rather than creating. So I took time to do that and it was really lovely. And now I'm feeling the upswing of wanting to share again. So, one of the most exciting things I did want to talk, like, just mention before I jump into this episode was, as you know, as I've mentioned multiple times, I have this stunning course that I have built out, recorded, and I've really just been trying to find a home that's going to be the place I want it to be hosted through. And I'd found a couple different places, but this week I found the place that I think I'm for sure going to completely build it out on and end up launching it through. And what I'm most excited about is, previously I just thought it was going to be a course, but with this new platform, it's all about creating something that they call people magic. And y'all, I am obsessed with the vision they've kind of helped me create and catch, which is this idea of kind of a stay or go world, basically, that's going to be this space and this community. Not only is it going to be a course, but a place where those of you that, end up getting to do the course or maybe perhaps participating through memberships will have access to this space that I will get to share with all of you where you'll get to meet each other. So it won't be just like I don't know, like a come and go or just you can watch if you don't want to participate, but I have this feeling through the way I'm going to create it. It's going to give you these opportunities to make friendships and connections with other women considering divorce, which I'd never caught that idea previously or been excited about that in the way that I am now. So that's what I'm going to be working on behind the scenes this summer. It's actually a lot bigger than just dropping the course. So I'm going to take this summer to build that out and looking towards a launch date at the end of the summer, so start of the school year. Because once I do, a big piece of it that I'm hoping to include will be potential like weekly group coaching calls and just getting to engage with you all there in a more intimate setting. Right now, so many of you are spread across all different platforms for me. Either you're interacting with me through the podcast or through my Instagram or through Facebook or through my email list. And I'm just kind of getting obsessed with the idea of having you all in this one space where I can go and ask you guys for, what you're struggling with most, what you want to hear on the podcast, and get that feedback in that one central location. So I just, that's it's not going to be till the end of the summer, but just wanted to share with you guys this exciting new development for me, finding a home for my course, finding a place that I really want to invest in and build out for the future of what Stay or Go coaching will be going forward. So with that shared, today's episode is just going to be hopefully a little bit short and sweet. I know lately I've taken you on deep 45-minute plus dives, but I wanted to share something that I found really unique and important. This small little like aha moment that happened for me a couple weeks ago when I had a day where I had had two of my 90-minute coaching intensives scheduled back to back. So I had the opportunity to, get on a call with someone I've never met before. So I like just to like give you guys some framework, some backstory, to give you guys some perspective on what these 90-minute intensives are like. Basically, all I have is like a little note from you around like what you're considering, why you're considering divorce. And then you show up on this call. And the next 90 minutes are spent in this incredible process that I use to take you from like where you're at right now into the future you most desire. And along that journey, identify the obstacles that are blocking you from being able to make that jump and helping you also identify the solutions. Like what are the things that are going to help you overcome those obstacles? So for me, obviously these are new. I've only had them. I think I introduced them as an offering maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. Might be about a month now. But when I get on a call with one of you, it is so incredible for me as a coach because I really get to bring my absolute like A game in that moment because I have 90 minutes to basically hear a pretty intense recap of like your marriage's story, life story, and pull the most important pieces and really give you that clarity that you're seeking. So when I get on these calls, like my brain is on fire. It is downloading in like insane amounts of information that you're giving me. It's cataloging them. It's separating out. It's finding the things that are most important. And then while I'm doing that, putting it all into this framework of like, here's where we are. Here's where we want to be. Here's what we got to do to get there. So I was getting to do this a couple weeks ago and really, really fascinating moment of having two very different women get on those calls. So the first client that came on, and I'm not going to go too much into details, but what I want you to realize is when I start a call with you, I never know like what you're going to need. What are going to be your solutions? You are a black box to me. But as we go through the 90 minutes, very rapidly, my brain is able to ask the questions, dig down in, and find the things that you might be missing. So a lot of this is like finding those blind spots. So with the first client, one of the things I really noticed was she seemed to know clearly what she wanted going forward. And it felt to me like I wouldn't say the word typical, but like, okay, it's pretty clear you've done a lot of work, you know yourself. And what's really missing is letting go of the guilt and the people pleasing and processing the grief that like this person you're leaving behind hasn't done his work and he's going to struggle and he's going to like need to grow up. For so many of you that are in marriages with, this sounds so mean, but this is the only word that's coming up. Like man-children, man-childs. And I feel for them. I do, but also like our culture has created this way of us, especially if you're an A-type high functioning woman, like overcompensating and then really like ending up raising our partners. So in this instance, that was a lot of what her dynamic was. Her way overachieving, way over handling everything. And ultimately that leading her to a dynamic where like he's underfunctioned, less functioning now than he was probably when they met. And she's doing it all without getting any kind of things that she needs in the relationship. So spotted some key pieces for her, but ultimately it was like, yeah, what she needed most was like that validation and those key points of like, here are the books to read or the, practices that I'd recommend to help you overcome that guilt that this person hasn't done his work and you're not responsible for him. And you still get to go move on and have a life that you want with a fully functioning adult partner instead of the man child you're married to right now. So I went from that coaching call to the second one, which when I got on the call with this next client, it was like we were all over. And I love that for those of you that get on these calls with me, that you can really, this is your safe space to just come and pour it all out. Every bit of it. It can be messy, it can be wild, it can be all over the place, and I have got you. So there was lots of stuff at play here, all sorts of different pieces. There was an affair that was a part of this. But there was, when we reached the like future, it became very clear to me that she really did not know. She didn't have a clear and compelling idea of what she wanted going forward. And sometimes when we don't know what we want, that can feel really scary to not know what you want. And so you can kind of start just like, okay, well, maybe it's that I don't want my marriage. And more so than just like recognizing how you're feeling, we can want to take action in the external to try and get rid of those feelings. So with her, I couldn't really see the solutions. It was beautiful. I think we were like about 40 minutes in, and in my head, I'm like, okay, I'm still not really seeing it. So let's dig deeper. Let's dig deeper. And as we dug deeper, we ended up identifying that she has this like very intense anxiety that has been there her whole life. And ultimately, that's what she was wanting the most relief from, was like, how do I get rid of this anxiety? And I just have to say, I am so incredibly grateful that she got on a call with me and had this coaching session before she ever went and just up and got divorced, because surprise, that anxiety is not going to just magically disappear because you decide to get divorced. And that was something I could powerfully say to her of like, hey, babe, it may, and here's the thing, it may very well be that she does not want to stay in her marriage and that this isn't a fit. That may in the future very well be the case. But right now, what was the most pressing was this anxiety. And of course, my brain's like going to all those different things I've taught you guys about, right? Like unmanaged CPTSD and dealing with emotional flashbacks. And if we don't understand all of that going on inside of us, we can make I don't want to call it a mistake, because I think everything in our lives happens and unfolds how it's meant to, but we can make choices that are not as informed as they could be. Okay. Which would be thinking your anxiety and your dysregulation comes from your marriage, which definitely your marriage may be contributing to it. But then if you think that's it, you go and you get divorced, and then you are fucking blindsided afterwards when now you're divorced and shit, it's still there. I'm still dysregulated. I'm still having emotional flashbacks. Now, most of the women I've seen, who experience this, they don't know they have CPTSD. They don't know that those are emotional flashbacks. So it is terrifying, because you've just changed this huge aspect of your life. And then you end up getting, a year afterwards, 6 months to a year post-divorce, you're like, whoa, wait a second. I'm still really struggling. And then there's all the disillusionment of like, shit, it wasn't my marriage, it's me. Oh my God. That is like the worst feeling. And I know the flavor of that feeling, because I went through that iteration of like, oh shit, it's me. It's not my marriage, quite a few times before I actually got divorced, which was me processing and doing that work of getting to know myself, getting to understand my ins and outs. And although I understand it a lot more now, enough of my trauma to be taking responsibility for that, setting healthier boundaries in my life, showing up and communicating more clearly, asking for what I want, knowing what I want. All of that is work that is so, it's not necessary before you get divorced, but I will tell you that in my work as a coach, I feel that it is so vitally important and like a really huge gift that you can give yourself to do before you go make such a big decision. And I like to think of it in this way. You can absolutely figure that out post-divorce, but sometimes when you do that beforehand, it allows you to, when you get divorced, you take that leap and you fly. Your wings are already strong enough, right, to carry you forward instead of what a lot of people end up doing, which is coming out of a divorce and really floundering and really struggling to get their feet underneath them because there's so much of not knowing yourself included. Like there's just an element. So I'll tie it back into this client of like, there was a lot of her in the way I was seeing her presenting of not fully understanding and feeling deeply safe with herself. You add, and let's go get divorced to that, that can be incredibly intense for your psyche, for your nervous system. It can be a lot to ask of yourself. So I wanted to use this episode to point that out because as you guys can tell, I definitely tend in my podcast episodes to lean more towards helping you guys see, I would say more of the realm of like going, because so many of you tend to, like I've said in a previous episode, be so focused on staying and afraid of going that I like really expanding your brains around that. But I wanted to take this episode to kind of explain that it is a full body, soul, psyche process. The type of coaching that I do before we're making a decision. And I do that because I want you to have a foundation that can support you when you go out and do something as big as, for some of you, like it was for me, completely striking out on your own. When I did it, I had no career. I'd been a stay-at-home mom for 10 years. I was not making any income, right? That is a huge leap to try to do while you're figuring yourself out. And, I want to caveat that by saying you're going to be figuring yourself out ultimately for the rest of your life. Let's just be real. It's not a like one and done process. But what I noticed for myself was every bit of self-work I did previous to my divorce made the actual moment of taking that big step easier. And that, obviously isn't the case for all of you because like I said, with both of these women that I met on the calls, one of them, just where she was at in her journey, I could see like, yep, you're ready. What we need to work on is the guilt and the shame and like moving forward. And with this other client, actually what I recommended to her, I was like, I am, even if you wanted to work with me, I wouldn't have you work with me because what you need is not something I can give. And I actually recommended she go do brain spotting and working with a therapist to find like what is the source of this unrelenting anxiety in her life that, for so much of her life, she's trying to escape with all of those external things. And her marriage, if you think of it as like a spoke of a wheel, her marriage is just one of those spokes that she's using. Ultimately, the root is that anxiety. And I'm not here. That is not my specialty. My specialty is not, unearthing that deep, potentially childhood trauma that is creating that sense of unsafety in her body that's perpetually there. So whether you whether you go or you stay, ultimately, I want you guys to realize that it's gonna be 50-50 either way. And I know I've said this previously, but what I mean by that is like it's still gonna be life. You're still gonna be human. You're still gonna be taking the you that is the you and the brain that is your brain when you get divorced is still gonna be the you and the brain that you have after your divorce. And that doesn't have to be a negative. Like, I actually prefer living and speaking to you guys from this very real, grounded space of divorce does not just magically fix everything. It's just a choice. And really, it's a choice more about what kind of flavor of 50-50 do you want. And as you guys know, for me, the flavors for me was the flavor of staying in my marriage, with the 50-50 of the hard of being with someone that I did not feel I could emotionally connect with or feel really seen and loved by, but I got to have financial security. I didn't have to work, versus the flavor of leaving, which was, okay, now I got to figure out a job. I've got to be able to provide for myself. I got to step up and take care of all these things he was taking care of. But now I have the possibility of dating and figuring myself out and really experiencing what I most wanted to experience in a partnership with someone. And that's ultimately what I chose. And I knew that when I got divorced. I was not under any illusions that somehow my life was going to just magically be amazing. And it hasn't. The last 4.5 years have definitely been 50-50. And they have been the 50-50 I have wanted. I have fucking loved the 50-50. In fact, some of the most intense 50-50 I've ever had. And I have been here for all of it because I wanted that journey and I chose that journey. And I think having the ability to choose that with clarity is so huge for helping you buy in to that journey versus just staying because you feel trapped. So wanted to share that with you all just to provide that other perspective of realizing it's not always a clear, like, go. Sometimes the answer is, hey, here's this blind spot that you might want to go dig into deeper, or here's this part of you that I'm noticing. This makes me think of a client I saw last week as well on a 90-minute intensive. Same thing. She's presenting with all of this stuff. And ultimately what I'm noticing is like, there's this part of you that likes to like escape out into the external world whenever you don't want to feel. And that is not going to go away if you get divorced. So I want to encourage all of you to take the time to really have the foundation you need to be supported when you leave. And that, and to remind you that, yeah, I have these incredible 90-minute intensives. I have seen them really making huge differences for the women getting on with me. It's an absolute blast for me. It's incredible for them. It also provides a lot of resources for them going forward if they're not able to work with me to have those next steps. So take the time to really know yourself. This is the most important piece, whether you get divorced or stay, is coming to really know and love yourself and be able to trust yourself. And the beautiful thing is that can still happen while you're married. I mean, I have at least, 5-6 clients right now who are all still married, and we're working on this stuff while they're deciding if they want to stay or go. So give yourself the time and the space to make that decision feeling really, really good about it. Anything else? I think that's all from me, y'all. Please remember to like and subscribe to the podcast. Remember, it helps get it into the hands of more women. And I will see you all next time. Love you, babes.